Hello, General Ginkgo. What's going on? Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. I think I got everything turned on right, but we'll see. We shall see. Vector, what's going on? Ghost Hunter, what? Don't get used to it. It says so right on the door. Don't get used to it. We had a security system issue here at the building today, so Jen and I came up here, and I was very angry about the fact that we had a security system issue on the weekend that pulled me away from home, and I decided to stay and do some painting. So there you go. Hello. Welcome to it. Hope everybody's weekend is doing right. Just got back from the state fair. Awesome. Watching stream in the AC now to cool off. I hear you on that one, man. It is hot. Hot like fire outside. It's 114 or some nonsense, it seems. Maybe not quite that hot, but it's hot. Super hot. I'm going to start on Kamar Jen. I couldn't restrain myself. From what? Hanging out with you guys on a weekend? I mean, I could, but what's the use? I could. But really, what's the use? How's Saturday treating everybody? James Meeks, what's going on? Drove an hour to the nearest game store to get you a bottle of Noosh. Nice. An hour, huh? That is some commitment right there. Luckily, I'm assuming they had it when you got there. It sucked to like call them up. Oh yeah, we got a bottle. And then drive an hour and be like, oh yeah, we sold that right before you got here. Oh, Bud, did you get a video? Are you kidding me? Bud, tell me you're kidding me. Is that a real thing? Bud was doing mixing for the Bacon brothers, Kevin Bacon and fam, last night. He was doing monitor mixes for them. And I told him to get us a video where he walked up to Kevin Bacon and said, there's this guy on the internet who paints little men who says he thinks about you a lot. You did? Oh my God, you got to tell me what he said. You got to tell me what he said, Bud. Did he do like the standard like guy and like movie guy? Did he do the good Kevin Bacon thing and like say something special to us? Did he say, oh, I use Pro-Acryl all the time when I paint my little men? How funny would it be if that was what Kevin Bacon came back with? Kevin Bacon would be like, oh yeah, Pro-Acryls, that's my fave. That's so freaking awesome. I want that to be the case. James Meeks, this is one of the characters from our game Age of Angra. This is Kamar Jinn, one of the Asura mystical creatures that come through the breach. So her card, it is not a miniatures game, it is a card game, so the characters represented on cards in the game, and it's like a Tekken Tag or a Street Fighter battler, but we're making some cool 75mm miniatures for painting based on the characters. They're a little bit more realistic and miniature than on the sheets that Ben did, but they're fantastic. So we're going to be doing cover art, something I never do, but we're going to be painting her to the cover art. Should be fun. Should be fun. Paint liquor, not true. You're doing all your public-facing events and Monument Hobbies gear? Dude, that's awesome. Henry Cavill probably knows Pro-Acryl. Probably not. Probably not. King Hammer says not approved. You're not here, you're not the boss of me. The alarm went off, I'm here, so I'm streaming. As always, what's going on, man? Mickey, how you been? I'm going to switch it up a bit. I'm going to do the smoke trail in white primer, so we don't have any black on the smoke trail, and then I'll zenithal with the white on the top portion that we just primed. So we'll do the body with my traditional black primer, white zenithal, and then we'll do white primer on the smoke. The smoke, aka Am I Alone? Are you ronery? I'm very ronery. I'm so ronery, I could cry. Jen was here. I was angry. She went home. I said I was staying until I got unangry and would stream. So. Freddie Prince plays Alpha Strike. Posts his mini on Instagram. Freddie Prince Jr.? Is that what we're talking about? That's not near as cool as if Kevin Bacon knows Pro-Acryl. Are the minis edible like the paints? I mean, even though Jen's not here and Jordan's not going to yell at me, I'm going to say no. Don't eat the minis. I need Cora snugs. I was getting them at home. That's what made me angry. Cora and me were just hanging out. Well, Cora was hanging out with Mom. Then Mom got the alarm notification and came to the building to check it out because we thought there were contractors that were supposed to be here today. And so when the contractors came at 8, we didn't see any problems. We thought maybe they were still here. So Jen just drove up here to see if that was the case. She got here, no contractors, and one of the back bay doors was alerting. So I had to drive up here. And by that point, I was belly rubbing with Cora. I had to drive up here. The alarm company we have, we're about to change away from because they're absolute garbage. Their equipment is garbage. It falses all the time. We paid way too much for it. Pain in the butt. So you can't get good service anymore, especially not from an alarm company. The dregs. So we're switching over to, I think, ADT commercial. You told me you'd see me today? Did you? I don't remember that. Maybe. Maybe, possibly. White primer. Hard to get a day off work when the actual building is calling you on the weekend. It happens all the damn time, man. It is tough. And not to bitch, but I'm gonna bitch. I'm sick of it. This man needs some freaking time off. And no matter how hard I try to have a day where I just get to decompress, it just doesn't happen. Just doesn't happen. Jen asked me this morning, we took the dog for her weekend morning ride. Went to get the car washed and to Starbucks and stuff like that. Got our pup cup, did the thing. And Jen's like, what are you doing today? I said, I am not braining. I want to not have to adult or brain or any of that stuff. I just want to hang out, play some video games. TennoCon started today. If you play Warframe, so I was watching some TennoCon stuff and having some fun, and then alarm. But the upside is I was like, well, I might as well paint some stuff, and I am excited to paint, so always look on the bright side of life. But I'm tired of my life being subjugated by freaking people who either can't do their job or don't care about the quality of their work and things like that. It's getting really old. Not gonna lie. Two kinds? Who that? Who that? I don't have the right screen showing. I don't have the right screens. Art of Mike Disney. Mike Disney. What's going on, man? Welcome, Raiders. I did just want an excuse to talk to you guys. So I got it. I got my excuse. I'm here talking to my favorite people on the internet, chat, and painting up Kamar Jen, one of our latest wonderful miniature designs. It is one of the characters from our recent and first board game. So really excited to have more people get exposed to the game, whether through watching us paint the miniatures. Maybe you want to grab a miniature to paint once they're available. They'll probably be available within the next month or so. These are the first test prints. They're very, very nice. I will be approving these and talking with the manufacturer here pretty soon to get them going into production. And then you guys will be able to get your hands on the first three. Kamar Jen, Danav, and Devandra are the first three. If you're not familiar with our game, Age of Angra is a mythical card battler a la Street Fighter, Tekken Tag, where you get two tag team participants called Asura, these mystical creatures who battle it out versus another player's Asura, 2v2 creatures. And it is an absolute blast. Really fun game. Really easy to get the hang of, but has a lot of combo and a lot of replayability based on figuring out, how the game plays, what Asura you pick. There's 9 possible Asura in the base game. We'll be doing more. I did a live play with Dice Tower, Tom Vassell, over on YouTube a couple weeks back. You can get the link to that. We post it up in our socials all the time. Go watch the game get played. I barely eked out a win against Tom. He got the game very fast, really liked it. Immediately started thinking about all the things and combos that he missed because of, playing it for the first time. So that was I think the biggest thing for me was watching somebody else get all the light bulbs going off, like, oh, but if I did this next time, I'd have had you, which is awesome. Always good fun. Needs to be regular scheduled, then it's not a surprise. So drop some leaks on the new game. There's not leaks, it's available. So, like I said, let me get finished with this white so it doesn't gum up the works here. Go ahead and get a little bit of a highlight going on her. Again, using the backdrop of black primer on her because she is more, what would you call it, corporeal. And then the smoke trail, her genie smoke trail, is obviously less so. So we will do just the white base on the smoke trail. Saves me a lot of hassle with not having a lot of shadows on the smoke trail. Make things easier. Nice trick you can use if you've got something that has a lot of OSL or effects on it. You don't want to have to mess around with brightening your shadows over something that's very white. Good enough for government work. Making some Skitari. We went to Old World Games as a group last night. Christopher, Jordan, me, Gabe, Grant, and Kyle were all there. I think that was it, right? Philip didn't play. Philip left pretty quick. But we went out to dinner first, all except for Kyle and Grant. Went out to dinner, grabbed some Mexican food, went to Old World. Jordan and Christopher played some Age of Sigmar, as did Gabe and his buddy Chance, who showed up. Kyle was doing some painting some Legions Imperialis stuff. I was doing the social butterfly thing. I was just sitting around telling jokes and hashing it out with Luke, the store owner, and a bunch of other randos that came through, good folks in the community. Had a lot of fun. That was a really good stress reliever for me. It had been a long week, so being able to sit down and have some neat nerd conversations without having it tied to work was really nice. I liked that. Did that till like 10:30, and then I went and got my car washed. James, you left. You didn't even go in the store, dude. From the story we heard, you didn't even go in. Grant said that you split like a chicken. James would have been there. We went to dinner and got there at like 7:15 or something like that. 7:15, 7:30. Should have hung out, man. Why'd you leave? Could have had some fun. Had to get out of the house. You feel me? Yeah, it's been a long week. It's been a long bunch of weeks, and it's about to get longer because we got Gen Con. It's just a madhouse around here. We have so much going on. So many new products, so much logistical stuff going on with shipping and arranging orders and fulfillment and bags coming in and delivery trucks not arriving on time. It's a standard business nonsense. It's all the stuff that I don't enjoy about business is all happening simultaneously. So anyway, on the game, this is Kamar Gen. All of our Asura have these large 3.5 by 5 cards that give their stats and some backstory of them. So it tells you a little bit about the Asura. There's some story and lore in the rule book as well. And the first 3 miniatures that we're doing are based off of these 3. So very, very nice. Obviously, Margen, we're going with a tad bit more realism on the sculpts, just to make the detail fun to paint. Devandra, the mystical, mechanical, or mystical mech style Asura. Nice, big, chonky miniatures. And then Danav, the noble demon. I like Danav, he's got like the Oni mask, but it's his face. It's very, very cool. Very, very nice. Some neat details. Flame in his hands. You can do some really cool OSL with him if you want. So Jordan and I will be painting these up at the shows that we're going to. Gen Con and Nova, you'll be able to stop by and see. We'll have the game set up at the booth so you can play, as well as miniatures being painted. You can have some fun, talk to us, catch up with what all's going on. The game does require reading, as does everything in life, technically. You wish people at your FLGS would paint there? Old World doesn't really have a good paint setup. I wish they would do something about that and have a better thing. They need some place with lights and stuff. I can't paint there because the lighting's horrible. I did last week and it just bummed me out. So I didn't take stuff to paint this week. I would, right? But they don't have a good setup there. They need like a paint bar. But they have a lot of really cool gaming tables and a lot of people there. So it's a good social space for sure. Really want to paint Devondra a greenish ivory pearl and non-metallic metal. Oh yeah, it's going to be so good. Hoping that Texas place that's making these is on their A game. They're really good sculpts. Well, I mean the sculpts are good, but the prints have been really good. As if they can keep the quality that we have here on these first approval copies, then I'm going to be very satisfied. Minor support cleanup that you've got to do, but nothing huge. Sleeping doesn't require reading. I mean, probably not. You're not qualified for life. That makes sense. Does Monument Hobbies have any plans to do any conventions in Northern California? We support a lot of conventions. I think KublaCon is in Northern California. Is that correct? I don't remember which one's up in the Bay Area, but we support a lot of conventions in California. We don't attend any currently. We may be at TwitchCon. We're working on some of that right now to see how that goes, but no guarantees. TwitchCon's a weird one. They're starting to do some tabletop game stuff. So we'll see. We're really interested in working with industries that are not really big with tabletop support and helping them find a way to add that in. You know, when they traditionally been like TwitchCon, all video games, it's nice to do that. PAX and things like that we'd love to work more with. We did do WonderCon, but that's Southern California. Any more EU conventions this year? Yes. Essen. Spiel. DungeonCon I've never heard of. I assume it's a D&D RPG con. Doesn't mean we don't support it. Jordan handles all that. I am not in the know. Yeah, but we'll be at Spiel. Well, I say we'll be. Jordan will be there with the Element team and stopping by the PK Pro booth and hanging out and doing a bunch of stuff there, painting and scoping it out. We don't really we haven't invested heavily in what our presence looks like there because this is the first year that we're attending. We did UK Games Expo. We'll be doing Spiel. We will try to have presence at more of these shows and learn how we can be there in a bigger way in the future. But we're not just going to throw a bunch of money at it and show up and not have it be, what we need it to be. So, wish your local con was bigger. Yeah, it's tough. It's something that Jen and I have always talked about, really wanting to be able to do more, with attendance on things like that. But it costs so much to mobilize the company in a way that's meaningful. But there are times where you might see myself or maybe me and Jen or Jordan by himself, things like that, at various cons and be able to have a good time there. So. Oh, nice. He loves looking at painted minis. There'll be a lot there. It'll be a fun show. All right, so what do we got to do here? She's got kind of a purplish undertone. He's got the way Ben did the graphics on this is that she's got kind of a shadow to the smoke. I'm not going to paint it like that. I'm going to paint it like, like smoke trail smoke. But the purplish tone and then the bluish white I think is good. So we'll do the purplish grayish on top, and then we'll come up with like a bright underneath glow for it, which I think will work really cool. So let's figure out how we're going to start that. I don't know if I want to just go ahead and I could dry brush that on. Which the texture of smoke, I think a dry brush could actually work there, ? The airbrush is going to cover too much into the low spots, so I don't know that that's what I want to do. But I could dry brush that to start. That could be kind of cool. Let's try that. That's going to be messy. Let's make sure we don't need that anymore. No more airbrush. And I need a color. That's kind of a plum. Probably darker. I think it might actually be Wizard's Butt. It might actually be Wizard's butt. We'll go with that. Although I could probably get. Where are all my purples? Who stole all my purples, Jordan? Perplexed I am. Am I just missing them? Those. Missing like plum, purple, purple, plum. Stealing my colors. So I don't know. Could we do it with royal purple? Oh yeah. I think royal purple might be the good one. Just lightly dry brush that on the top would be good. Let's do that. Let's do that. That way I don't have to use a color nobody else has. Ha 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 ha. Yes, you're correct, Mike. Kevin, what's going on, man? How have you been? Need to get all this crap out of the way here. Hang on. Welcome to Sneaky Saturday. I think I can use a bigger one. I'm going to use a DD2, DD3, DD3. Yeah, that'll probably work. The DA100. Chris will forever be remembered for the man that painted miniatures with a house brush. A house painting brush. Won't he? That works very well. It was who used it? What are you talking about? You weren't there. You don't know. You don't know. He wasn't there. I'm not doing traditional dry brushing. As you can see, I'm just squibbing the brush along to pick up the top end of the smoke. Working really well. Leave the crevices brighter. And go in both directions. Normally when dry brushing, you don't want to hit the model in both directions of the brush. Like you want to just do it on the downstroke, let's say. But here, I'm going to be doing like this, making sure that I kind of squib the brush along, get paint on it from both directions. But the bulk of the paint will be on the high spots. which is much darker. Flame and smoke. You can imagine kind of that ignition source being within the smoke trail. Be brighter where we would normally put shadows and darker where we would normally put highlights. So just kind of reversing it, hence the reason I did the white prime that you rarely ever see me do. But in a situation like this, that's the best choice. I'm using a lot of paint here. Sugar Rush. Surprise Saturday. Unless you're doing ska dry brushing, only hit the model on the upstroke. Is that a music joke? Is that trying to be a music joke? Not enough trombone for that joke, buddy. Needs more trombone. Also a great way to knock your model off of the thing I'm just going to take it off of there because it's not going to work very well for me to have it on that stand while I'm beating the crap out of it with a dry brush, huh? I am trying to break everybody's watch streak. Get you all back down to level playing ground. Knock you down a few pegs. Bunch of wisecrackers. Arguing about who's been here the longest. Knock everybody back to 0. That'll show you. I never think about that stuff. I think it was Game Delay, right? Ghost Hunter, Paint Liquor. We're all like, what? You're trying to kill my streak? And then I think Game Delay ruined, or Twitch ruined a couple of your streaks anyway. Just being Twitch. We heard you liked your streaks ruined. So we threw in some ruin on your streaks. Figure out how to get into the deep recesses here. Smaller brush, probably, right? Is that what everybody's going to say? Use a DD1, Jason. Get smart. I refuse. All right, again, I got to use a bigger brush, or a smaller brush. DD100, understood. No! No! How big would that even be? That would be a huge brush. Source, yes. Dry brushes are synthetic. There's no use to using natural hair for a dry brush. The techniques we do with them are beating the crap out of the brush all the time anyway, so I would not suggest worrying about all of that. Is that the same? Yeah, it's a 3. I have a 2 in here. I feel like what I really want is a 2. Let's see if I have a DD2 in my office real quick. I do not. Not that I can find anyway. We'll do it with a DD1. We'll make it work, chat. We have the tools. Quick, dance on the tables. I'm back. You weren't quick enough. Quick, eat the paint. What? We don't do that here. We don't do that here. Tips for using Procurl and dry brushing since it's so fluid. I never understand where to start with that question because like I'm dry brushing with it right now and I'm literally just wiping paint off on a paper towel. Get paint on the brush. The brush is super dry. I didn't put any dampness on the brush. I didn't even touch it with water. Paint on the brush. Squib it off on a paper towel. Dry brush. I've been doing this for 45 years the same way no matter what paint it is. Doesn't matter. So I would need more clarification as to if you're having problems with something. The fluidity of the paint really doesn't matter. That's kind of a wives' tale that people try to do. It's pigment. Once you take the fluidity away from it by drying the brush out, you're fine. I know people have said, oh, you know, your paint brushes or your paints, you know, Procurl and dry brushes well because it's too wet. And I'm like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. Works like a champ. As you can see, we're just doing messy dry brushing now. Texture be damned. Get it on the model. You can dampen it too, though, right? Like I can dampen my dry brush. I'm doing that right now. I can get back in here and kind of use it as a way to fill in a little bit. Areas that don't have a whole lot of texture to pick up the paint off of the brush, then I might dampen the brush a little bit. Squib it around a little bit more. Wouldn't heavy-bodied acrylics be easier to dry brush with? They're going to give you a lot more pigmentation on the brush. You're not going to be able to clean the pigment off of the brush as quickly, right? So, you know, if you go into a heavy-bodied acrylic and then you were to wipe it off on a paper towel, you're going to have so much more paint that you're trying to wipe off on the paper towel that you might find you've got too much paint, right? Like everything, dry brushing is one of those techniques that you've got to pay attention to how much paint is on the brush before you go to the model, you know? I like dry brushing without a lot of paint on the model because it provides a lot less texture, so on and so forth. So, you know, it's up to you how you do it, but I need to get down in there, don't I? Down in that area. So yeah, so heavy-bodied acrylics work just as well as anything else. They're going to give more texture because they're going to put more material on the brush, so you got to be careful. I typically like a more fluid paint for dry brushing because it means it's easier for me to control how much is on the brush when I go to the model, like what I'm doing now. But again, it depends on how you've learned, how you do dry brushing, what are you comfortable with, yada, yada, yada. The thicker the paint, the more color you're going to get off your dry brush with every stroke, right? So if you're having problems, you know, getting the dry brushing to take, so to speak, and, you know, have the color hit the model the way you want to, then yeah, maybe the heavy bodies would do you well. I've never thought in terms of, oh yeah, the heavy bodies are great for dry brushing. It's not what I would consider them good for because they're so transparent. Remember that opacity is one of the keys for dry brushing, and heavy-bodied acrylics are not opaque. Very few of them are. Titanium white, carbon black, you know, those colors are way more opaque. But your typical colors in heavy-bodied single pigments, even hues where you've mixed in colors to get the paint, are going to be much less opaque. And that can cause all sorts of issues when dry brushing because you're not going to get the peaks that you want to pull out away from the model. You're not going to get them to peak as quickly. You're going to have to put a lot of layers on. Now, that being said, they will blend better, right? So when you're dry brushing, if you were to do like 2 layers of dry brushing, one with one color, one with a brighter version of that color and heavy body, then they would probably give you a better blend, so to speak. So that could be a thing. Again, like I said, not something that I normally would go after and say, oh yeah, you know what heavy-bodied acrylics are great for is dry brushing. So I don't have a lot of experience there. But yeah, that's all I do. There's just a dry paper towel, wipe the paint off on it, put it on the model. Okay, now I like the kind of bluish, very bright white blue, so I'm going to mix a transparent color to wash over all of the smoke here. We're going to get the smoke to at least a point where the dirty stuff is done. That way I can then start painting the rest of the model on top of it because there's a lot, you know, like big dry brush strokes and things like that are going to cause, you know, issues for the rest of the model if I don't paint this first. So I'm going to take some transparent white and some transparent blue, I think. Transparent blue. Right. 2 drops of transparent blue. I don't know that I want a lot. I'll wipe the excess off in there too. And then transparent white, I'm going to want a ton. Right. Transparent white. You're going to freehand a mom tattoo on your mech? Awesome. I love it. I approve. Bunch of transparent white. Tons of transparent white. And then a bunch of glazed wash medium. So you can see, I don't know, I just piled the transparent white in there. And then I'll double that, let's say, 1 to 1. I know, we'll probably triple it. So 2 to 1. Glazed wash medium. And then a spritz of water. I like that. That's how I start. Very scientific. Take the butt end of your brush, mix that all up. I want a very light blue. That's not light enough. Blue is so overpowering, I probably should have only used like a half a drop. I don't know, though. This might work pretty well. That's going to be really blue, though. That's going to be super vibrant and way overpowered for what I'm trying to do, I think. Yeah, that's going to be way too much. Way too blue. If I paint that over a white base, that's going to be crazy, right? Because that just alone is, oh yeah, wow. That's going to be a lot of color. I needed a lot less blue. Let's grab another mixing cup. Let's take this, a little bit of that, and then a lot of transparent white. Might need to use some titanium white. The zinc, while it lightens, as you can see, it gives us a really good way to lighten the blue, right? It's not the best at actually using as a tint base. That's much better there. Meaning that it's not strong enough to just put another color in and basically get a tint of white or get a hue of white, right? The zinc is going to always tint the color you put it in, but to get back to where it feels like it's just like white blue, you know, that's gonna be tough. That's pretty good right there. Let's see how that is, how that feels. Yeah, okay, that's much better. That's gonna feel more like a white blue. So I'm down. I feel like we got it. I need more of the glazed wash medium and a little bit of water. Just mad scientisting here. We still have the other mix, so we can put more blue in it if we need to as we go. But I think this is going to be perfect as a wash that I'm going to put all over the smoke trail, or legs, for lack of a better term. Are you going to have mixing white for the heavy body? I mean, we have titanium white, so yeah. If you're saying you want zinc white, no. Titanium white is much better for tint strength. What do I want to use here? Probably like a big, like a BAB. Use the BAB too much? Maybe? I have a newer BAB. Oh, I do. Aha! Perfect. Big flat BAB brush here. Right, and then we're just going to slop it on. don't care about being messy, because if it gloms up, it's smoke, right? It's not like a metal panel where I need to make sure color is blocked out specifically. Here it can be random, textured, and all sorts of craziness going on with it because it's, you know, mystical smoke. I'm just glomming it on. Very counterintuitive for how we paint because, number one, you very rarely use a bright colored wash. Not conducive to good model painting. But when doing effects like this, it can make all the difference. If we were to do this bright blue and then do the royal purple as a wash, the problem is that the royal purple would then go into the low spots, which is not where we want the dark color. That would be the way you would do normal things. This is not normal things. This is highly abnormal things. Genie butt smoke turns out to be totally different in the way we want to paint it than normal shadows and highlights and things like that. So new term, genie butt smoke. Also means that this model will not be dry for like 4 days because I'm putting so much paint on it. I never think about that when I do this, but it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Our glazed wash medium is also a drying retarder. Not quite as much as Noosh, but very similar in its approach, just kind of like a toned down Noosh. And so it's going to take a while to be able to work on her. We might prime the other models here in a second, I don't know. Or we can just use the airbrush, a bunch of air, and see if we can't get this to dry a little quicker. Stuff gets me jazzed because this is very not how I paint. Does that make sense? Is that weird? Like, I don't do this all the time. Is this even gonna work? Well, I love art. Go for it, man. What are you gonna do? Who's gonna stop you? Who's gonna tell you you're wrong? Yeah. Get away some of those bigger drops because I am really ham-fisting this on here. So there's gonna be some big pools of color and droplets like that I don't want. So smooth them out as I catch them. Might not catch all of them. That's okay. That looks pretty good, actually. Misty Blue, yeah. Yeah, I'm happy with the coloring. It's a totally different thought process of how to do a wash that is you never know what you may get, right? A lot of paint on here, so I have to be careful with the air. It'll move big droplets around and give me funky results if I'm not careful here. Big pool of paint right here. Nope. Saturday stream cannot be expected. Been struggling with smoke effects, Ginkgo? Yeah, so the idea that I take is like you're seeing, like start with a white prime base. It always helps because it keeps the what we would call the low parts bright, which is generally what you don't want, right? And then allows you to do something easy like this dry brush with a dark color. You can use grays and blacks to dry brush with, and then you wind up with a really bright gray or white in the shadows, what we would call the shadow spots, and then black and gray up on the top, which makes it feel much like smoke. You can paint the whole thing, if you're doing fire, you can paint the whole thing in yellows, oranges, and reds for the fire effect. Like we could paint this whole thing like a flame, and then dry brush the dark color over the top for the smoke. That's what I did on the jump jet battle mechs that I did for my BattleTech stuff, right? Is that I just painted the flames first, so it was all yellow, orange, red, and then oh, did I miss a big chunk? Oh no, it just the camera makes it look like there's no paint down in there, but there is. You know, and then after that, you dry brush the black and gray over the top because the smoky bits will be where you would normally put your highlights, right? And the bright bits would be normally where you put your shadows. It's just turning your head over upside down from what you would normally expect to see, and you're off and running. Yeah, Doc Siebel, you can expect a Saturday stream all you want. You're just going to be disappointed. Total says, I'm getting used to these. It's only 2, man. Well, 2 in the recent past. We used to do them more often. I say we. I used to do them more often. But you can kind of see how the blue is now giving us that glow, brightening the glow in between and smoothing out a little bit of the purple dry brush and making it look more, you know, wispy, smoke-like. I think dry brush works fairly well for this. Maybe not, depending on, you know, how you envision the texture on your model at the end of the day. So you got to be careful with dry brushing. It can make things look a little overly textured, but I think with this and with most smoke effects, you're usually pretty good. But yeah, I think we're off to a good start here. I will then go back and paint in some of the bright areas with some titanium white to brighten them up, to give us a bigger glow. And then probably glaze over the purple in some spots as well. We'll play around with it and see what we like. There'll be a lot of back and forth with these types of effects, you know. Because you'll put the bright over the dark, then you'll want to have more dark in a certain spot, and so you'll work on that, and you may then need to brighten it back up because you over darken it in certain areas, that kind of stuff. It's always just a push-pull. Oh, show. I feel like I want more in that area. I don't know what's going on there. Did I not hit that? Or did I hit it and then it just dried really quick and didn't give me what I wanted? Using the air from the airbrush just to help speed cure this. I want to continue painting her. I don't want to have to stop. And even if I start painting her upper torso, I need to not be hitting wet paint with my fingers on this smoke bit. So if I can get most of it cured, except for the deepest recesses, will be all right, I think. Shows a lot of the power of the transparents as washes. For as much as I've glommed on here, right, we're really only getting color in the areas that were the bright white primer. And even then, not on the high spots, because the transparent flows down into the low spots like you want a wash to do. Let that sit for a bit. That's starting to look pretty good. All right. Happy with the way that's turning out. Yeah, Kamar Jen. I mean, she's very pastel-y in colors, right? The smoke isn't really done. We don't have a lot of that detail on here. You can tell it's smoke, and it's mostly white. So I will be brightening a lot of this up to match the art. But, you know, it doesn't really have all the wispiness on here. But I like the purple, so we went with the royal purple. And I like, obviously, the blue from her skin kind of intruding down in here, so we went with that. And then I'll brighten it back up with whites, right? Titanium white. And we'll do a lot of painting and blending, and then maybe another coat of wash over the top of it at some point in time, and then we'll move up into the skin, which for her is again kind of a ultramarine-ish, you know, and plum, some purplish, some blues in there, which I really like. But we want to keep it different enough from these colors on the skin, so I'll probably do the skin a little bit darker than he has here, because he's got this kind of electric glow, you know, from Photoshop work that's brightening this up that we can't really do in 3D without painting it like blisteringly white. So I'll darken the skin up because this overall smoke will be darker than what we have here. So it allows me the freedom to darken the skin. But I'm thinking that, you know, purples and ultramarines for the skin would work really well. So I think that's where we'll start. We'll start with a pass of ultramarine blue over all of the skin, very thin. Like I'll create a glaze of ultramarine blue. We'll do that over the skin, and then we'll use purples and brighter versions of the faded ultramarine and maybe white blue to get us back to the highlights, see how we like it. I think that works pretty well. It's a little bit more desaturated on her from what it would be, or what it's going to be when we attack it here. Go with ultramarine first. Get another mixing cup because we're going to need a bunch. Don't eat the minis. Is there a reason I didn't noosh this? Yeah, because I'm moving fast, and to be honest with you, we just primed this model. If I do noosh and then I start wiping the paint off, I might actually remove some stuff. Remember, I got to keep my process fairly stable as I'm moving quick. Also, you know, noosh, while giving me the ability to hold, you know, a good amount of this blue in the recesses, is probably not the process I'm looking for. I can't say that 100%. You know, it might have been worth a shot to do that. I've got a low spot here where the wash is dripping. See how I'm pulling that off now? down to the primer because that drop was so big. Go ahead and just strip that back. That was too much paint. It's starting to kind of glom and dry in a big puddle right there. I'm actually adding a dimension from that shape of that droplet on the model, so I want to get away from that. I think that's that only low spot that's doing that. This spot's pretty good. All that up high is pretty good, but that spot I'll let that dry and then I'll go back and hit it again with a wash. Yeah, remember that Noosh is really meant as an overall filter and weathering coverage. I don't initially think of it for things like this, although we can use it to great effect on plasma coils and such. This unfortunately doesn't have as uniform of a shape as a plasma coil does, so being able to make sure you get it out from everywhere would be really hard to get in here and wipe it all off correctly. So I don't know, didn't really pass my thought. I typically think in terms of Noosh being a vehicle dreadnought, type thing. Me personally. Wonderful glaze wash medium again. And a quick mix. I can keep from touching her too much to let that other work dry. And when doing a all over glaze like this, like to kind of attack it with less intensity for the first layer, see how you like the color, then come back after it with a second layer where you can amp up the opacity if this isn't the right blue for you. Maybe it's not dark enough, not vibrant enough, whatever. Then hit it with a second pass. But again, it's so much better to think in terms of layering upward because you can't layer downward. That makes sense? You're going to be glazing or layering or whatever you want to call it. You may not think you're glazing, but you may still be painting with fairly transparent paints and putting one layer over the other. If you're doing that, always start with less color on the model first and work your way back up to a level that you're happy with. Because this is letting so much of the base layer show, and that's great. That white's showing through really nicely. The dark grays and blacks of the shadows are going to have a nice impact as well. And then I can kind of start determining if that's giving me the blue I want, or if I'm getting it too desaturated, too light color because of the white, or too dark because of the black, so on and so forth. Lets you be the judge, rather than if you just glom the paint on initially, get too much color, you can't really do that. There's no eraser for what we do, really. You put yourself in a position where you feel kind of stuck if you're not careful. Using a big old brush, number 6, going for coverage here. I want to make sure I don't leave too much pigment in any one spot, so I can kind of avoid dark spots. I want to make sure also that I'm getting full coverage at the same time. I don't want to leave an open gap where there's no paint and have to come back and stitch it together. Thin paint doesn't do that very well. It typically gives you a tied line around the edge, so you can see how I'm really working on making sure I get every area around the circumference of the arm. Don't leave any blank spots and then let it start setting up and then have to come back. I've done that right here where there's a little spot right here on her hip, right? That's going to be a little dark, so I'm probably going to need to get a little bit of a wet brush, because you can see how I've got the front of the belly. Then I stopped painting here, and so I have a line right there that then I've got to find a way to blend that line in as I come around the back. So I'm just going to take a brush load of water, kind of smack that around, boom, and then paint back towards it on the rest of the skin back here. Oh, that's clothing anyway. That part of her ears? No, that's all white. Alrighty, what else? Again, make sure I have enough paint on the brush that I can work pretty much all the way around the arm and fingers in one go. Don't have to stop a lot and worry about that stitching together or dark spot that I'll get. That's a good first pass. Just a little bit here on her hip. That's going to be a little dark. Go. Then this belly's where we started, so I can kind of start coming back here and working a second layer in to start giving the shadow underneath the belly here. I'm Mortal Kombat. Yeah, she's just got a like a terrier in the lamp. I have no idea. Like a familiar. Likes puppies. Need Ben here, the lore hound. Let us know what the actual story behind that is. Everyone loves dogs. I'll allow it. Exactly. No eraser, but you can paint over it. You definitely can. Yeah, the paint over is our eraser. It just makes it tough, right? Because you can be pretty far along in a process, and if you're not careful, you know, wind up where it's like, ah, crap, I got to repaint that whole thing. So I typically start low opacity, work back up, give yourself a lot more to work with, a lot more fudge room. There's a ton of paint right there. That's like filling something with epoxy right there. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. That's going to tear. Too thick. I'm going to get that out of there. Just use a wet brush. Too much of a puddle. I don't want that dimension on the model. We'll clear that out. I think those are the only two. That spot that was right there, and then that spot back there. Everything else is looking pretty good. Did I finish the Gen Con texture trainer you were working on, or was it just set aside for the new hotness? It's a Nova texture trainer, by the way. These, Nova comes after Gen Con. These, we want to have a couple of them pretty far along for Gen Con. So yes, I need to skip them ahead in the queue. We don't point out when Jason doesn't finish models. You'd be here all week. Ghost Hunter, are you trying? Are you trying to make enemies today? Is that what you're trying to do? Did you read that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? I have finished more models than most people will paint in their entire life. So I got nothing to answer for. Most of what I do is for teaching purposes. That makes it tough to, if I pick a model I don't really care about, to show you how to paint an axe, right? That happens all the time. And I just stop. I've got so many models on the bench that are literally just done. I can look at them and immediately remember what it was I was doing. Oh yeah, that was when so and so asked me to, show them how to paint yellow or whatever. Gentries. Oh no no no. We weren't talking about you. No, the Nova one I started because it was we got the print. I always get super excited. I'm like you guys. You get something new and you're like, oh my gosh, look at that! It's so great. Let's paint it. So I definitely fall victim to that. But yeah, the Age of Anger models we really want to make sure we get at least a good head start on, so that when we're at Gen Con we've got good color on them. I won't be painting at Gen Con. Jordan will, and so I want he wanted to paint Denov, so I'll let him paint Denov. But I want to get some color on Devondra and Kamar Jen, right? Even if it's not done, at least they have a good basis of color so that we can have them. You imagine having those sat out on top of their cards, and just gives it kind of a cool look. Brings the game to life more, and our goal at Gen Con is to expose more people to the game. Our release of our first game is treated more like a ramp up. We're trying to educate, get people interested in it. A lot of people have already bought it, so there's a lot of people out there playing. We see some conversations going on about it, which are all great. But we want to expose more people to it. And of course, these give a really good visual, and I think get people excited about the idea. I think the reverse, or the other problem with it, is that they might expect that, oh, when are the, I want to buy it when the miniatures are available. So, we have some of that going on too. All right, what do I need to do next? I feel like probably I don't know. I don't want to use the same royal purple shadow though. I mean, I guess I could mix it with the ultramarine blue. Maybe I just mix up from here and see what we get. We get it, police officer. Get some ultramarine and some white blue. And I'll start using the white blue as the mixer. Not with the intent to move to white blue completely, but just to brighten up the ultramarine as I go. Now we're really not glazing anymore. I'm just kind of sketching color on there. Will help to smooth out the skin, give me a good reference point for where my highlights are going to go. I don't typically utilize my zenithal highlight all the way through to the end of the model. Some people will. I will cover it up with opaque paint along the way in most cases. But it gives a good reference for where you want that highlight to go, kind of a paint by numbers, so to speak. Goal here with the white, blue, and the ultramarine is to kind of immediately turn that ultramarine base that we just did into a shadow, right? With this being the actual mid-tone main skin color, if you will. Two are close enough together that I'm not going to get like a really big garish change in visual, but it will be enough to start setting up volumes again. Just real quick too. Left-handed, yep. Both Jordan and I are both lefties. Two southpaws. It really messes with people when we have guest painters because they come in here and all the cameras are set up for being southpaw. It's not very friendly to righties around here. Jen paints right-handed. Everybody else does, I think. Gabe, Chris, Shelby's painted a little bit. I think Matt is also right-handed. Pretty much the whole team is right-handed, so just the two of us that are on the stream all the time that aren't. The cameras belong to us. Down with righty. More Raiders. Marco Frazzoni, what is going on, my man? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome if you're coming over from Marco's channel. We're just digging in. We don't normally stream on Saturdays, so it's a surprise Saturday stream here at Monument Hobbies. We just got in the latest miniatures from our new game, Age of Angra. I am painting up the Kamar Jin. We also got Devandra, the Mystical Mechanical. Age of Angra is a card-based fighter. It is not a miniatures game, but we are making art-style 75 to 90 millimeter miniatures, Danav, for all of the Asura characters, which are these beasties that you use in a tag team fighting game. It's a player versus player 2v2 fighting match. And there are 9 different creatures in the base game. And we are taking them through the paces. We got the first 3 miniatures in and starting to throw some paint at them. So welcome. Hope your weekend is going well. Hope the stream went well over there, Marco. I am just going through and setting some initial volumes. I've glazed ultramarine over our pre-highlight on her skin. We did a little bit of work starting to set up the smoke down below. Just kind of doing those early figure the model out steps, and we'll start digging in more hardcore here soon. Yeah, they're great. Ben, the game developer, good buddy of mine, did all the game development, and he did all the original hand art on all of these. And then I took them and worked with our design team to get them into a more painter-friendly version. We love the cartooniness of the cards for the game, but I wanted them to be a tad more realistic for painting, just so that the detail felt a little bit more natural. So we're having a lot of fun with them. Right now I'm just using ultramarine and white blue, mixing it up, tinting the ultramarine as we go. So just a simple, very simple 2-color palette here to get the skin volumes initially placed. Then we'll start looking at adding some hue shift into the shadows, probably some form of a purplish or plum. I really like going with the box art. That's kind of what Ben has done, but we want to also keep it separate to some extent from the smoke trail, the genie smoke, or legs, if you will. The crone. The crone is so good, right? Like the texture trainers have just been like my first love. They just are turning out so great. The community response to them has been fantastic. The ability to paint a larger scale bust style mini, but have it be in our coin shape, so you really only focus on the front. I mean, yeah, on something like this, you really need to do the back of the familiar's wings, and you've got some depth to things like the face still, but it really is just a forward facing deal. So you're able to consciously focus on lighting from, you know, basically, I mean, as many directions as you want, but in one composition without having to worry about painting the back of the model, which is what a lot of people find as a hang up. We've got the latest, the Nova Open one. So at Nova, we will be releasing their Salamander as a texture trainer, as the inaugural Nova Open official texture trainer. So I started throwing some paint on him the other day. We've got a little bit longer. I got to get some color on these before Gen Con. These not till Nova. But if these will be released at Nova, you'll be able to buy them at the show. And then, of course, on our website, they will only be an annual limited edition. So we will sell them until the next Nova Open. And then we are hoping to have a category in the Nova Open where you will be able to paint one of your texture trainers and enter it in and be judged against like models. While I love the social aspect of painting competitions, I don't like the fact that everybody can just paint whatever model they want and are judged against everybody else's model, because the model will direct the judges judging more than people will let on, right? If a model composition sculpt isn't to a judge's liking, you'll get docked, and I don't care what anybody says, that's just the way it works. And I really like it when everybody kind of has to start working from the same or very similar model. You know, like if everybody has to paint a dreadnought, then, you know, you're going to get maybe some different poses, but you take the subjectivity of the actual subject out largely, and you really get to focus in on people's skill and capability with color and value and everything that makes a composition really come to life, which is the way it should be. Finger blend. So that's what excites me about the texture trainers and being able to do them at Capital Palette. Everyone should have to paint the same urban mech. I wouldn't go that far. We want them to have to paint like something interesting. But don't bump. The meme is real. Urban mechs unite. Never been a fan. Never been a fan. Relentlessly bad design. It was a meme before memes were a thing. And that's why it has survived so long. When they brought it out in MechWarrior Online, I was like, you gotta be kidding me, right? And then people were making, meme builds out of it. You're like, oh my god, this is gonna be a thing, isn't it? People were like wolf packing with Urbies. With like all the AC2s. Casually walking around the map, minding my own business, all of a sudden it's like a hailstorm. Like, what is going on? You're just getting wrecked by 4 or 5 Urbies sitting on a mountainside. Urbi spam is a legit strat. Yeah. Yeah, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Tasserith Witch, the crone, the texture trainer. We have a lot of those. We have 3 texture trainers right now. We have the hunter, right? Which I haven't finished my hunter. The warrior. The only warrior I've got. Oh no, I have the box art warrior, right? So the warrior, the hunter. We have a female fantasy style fighter, a kind of post-apocalyptic bounty hunter style, and the crone are all the texture trainers that are out right now. And we plan to continue to release them in sets of 3. You can buy them individually, but they come in a pack as well, and where you get a little bit of a discount. But the goal of these is really to just give you some larger frame of reference for practicing, whether it's non-metallic metal or metallics, or painting leather armor or leather bags. It gives you enough space to really practice your brushstrokes to get visual texture. I was doing this one at I started painting this one, I want to say, where did I start this? Adepticon? No, I didn't paint it at Adepticon. This one would have been at San Diego Comic-Con's other show, and started doing like the texture for the jeans and stuff like that, to where you can really just kind of show people in a more exaggerated sense, because of the larger frame of reference you've got, how to paint different textures and to do different things. So a lot of fun and really easy to reprime, paint again, paint 15 times if you want to practice. They're $20 a piece, $25 a piece, $25 because we do them with a base now, with a stand. So inexpensive. And yes, she has like a little schnauzer or something in a genie lamp. Terrier. After I do the brighter color on there, go back with a little bit darker version of it. Glaze that over the top. T-Cat, what's going on? Marco, take it easy. Sorry I missed your message. Hope you had a great stream. It's late for you, right? Oh, not that bad. What is it, like 1 in the morning over there? 2 in the morning? That's pretty late, I guess. Get some rest. All right, let's do some more base colors on other stuff. Her brassiere here is like a burgundy. Her bangles and jewelry are all a gold, but leaning into a very warm reddish using that burgundy backdrop, right? So kind of an orangey gold with the burgundy inlay on everything. So I'm going to paint the burgundy first on all the things with the clothing and the inlay, and even her vest is that same burgundy. So let's do that. Get some color down there. And what better color to start with? Probably dark plum is really what I want, huh? Dark plum. Enjoying cigars with the hubs? Sounds like a good start to the weekend. I unfortunately was called to the office due to an alarm trip. Jen came first, then I followed up, and I decided, well, if I'm here, I might as well just stay. So I figured if I'm going to stay, let's go ahead and paint with chat. Have a good time. It always boosts my spirits and my attitude when I get to hang out with you, gang. On the weekend, it's less like work. And while we don't have Jordan or Jen or Shelby here, we still have a lot of fun. Now she's got trim on the model that doesn't exist on the artwork, because we needed a good delineator. When you're doing 2D artwork, a lot of times just color will be a good enough separator. But when doing a sculpt, you need something that is a better separator, and so we gave that dimension there. So I'm going to paint the trim on here gold, like with the rest of the jewelry. Should give it another level of interest and be fun. And then again, all of this inlay area is going to be that burgundy as well, just to stay true to the game art. And if you're just joining us, this is Kamar Jin, one of the Asura, the mystical creatures, beasts in our game Age of Angra. She is one of the noble Asura that you can choose to play with. You get to pick 4 of her 6 available powers to put on the table. And another Asura to go along with her. And you battle your 2 Asura against the opponent's 2 Asura. You and your opponent acting as what we call battle shepherds. And as shepherds, you are able to command magics to some extent as a lowly human. And through your magical attunement, the Asura, who some are very godlike in their nature, will actually pay attention to you and give you the time of day and go fight fights with you and things like that. So that's kind of the lore background here. A supposed benevolent voice from the heavens told mankind to build a tower, and that if they could reach the heavens, he would bestow upon them power and peace, tranquility, for a world of their dreams. And when they built the tower and got to the heavens, it turned out he was a liar and a trickster, and it was actually a very malevolent being who was trying to escape the realm of the heavens that he was in. And their tower pierced the heavens, released him and all of the Asura. The Asura are neither good nor bad necessarily. Some of them just want to go home. Some of them want to destroy the earth. It's not really the earth, but destroy the area they have now been thrust in on. Some of them really think humans are cool and want to hang out. Other ones want to eat you. But you as a shepherd get to play with all of them. Game is available directly on our website, monumenthobbies.com. You can do exclamation point store in chat. Go check it out for yourself. The PDF of the rules is up on the website. As well as all the details of the game and the game itself. No Kickstarter needed. You can buy it and have it by next week. Be playing it next weekend. It's a card-based fighter. You've got all of the... that's Kamar Jin, the one we're painting. And we've got the other 3 that we're doing the miniatures for. But it comes with 9 Asura, 4 different shepherd types, tons of scenarios and trinkets and gameplay stuff to make it really cool. It's a very fun game. It's $36 basically, $35.99. So it'd be hard pressed to find a better value to get a cool weekend game going. What's going on here? I kind of on the inside don't have trim, so gotta be careful there. You set off our back door? Dang it. Bastages. You're like, we need stream today. Let's call Jen and Jason to the office. Let's make it to where they can't sit around the house in their underwear watching TV and playing video games. Let's make them paint. Fine, chat. Fine. See how it is. They're like Cora. Cora will come in and bark at me like she needs to go outside, only to lure me into the living room where really she wants to sit on the couch and get belly rubs. This is my life. I'm accustomed to it. I will let you get away with it just this once. Who am I trying to kid? Probably get away with it again, too. It hurt you more than it hurt me? I don't know, man. You don't know how comfy I was in my office chair sitting at home watching TennoCon, playing some Warframe. I wasn't having near as much fun playing the Warframe. Everybody was watching TennoCon, so there weren't a lot of groups to do the mission I needed to do. And so I wound up trying to do a very, very difficult mission by myself. That was not fun. I'm still not back in the swing of Warframe yet. It's a very complex game. I say complex. As soon as I can remember what buttons to press when, it'll be less complex, but still. I think she has the burgundy in here in between these flame doohickeys. I'll just kind of spot it in there. Who's got the best Saturday night plans? Anybody do anything cool? I already told Chad. I was literally, Jen asked me, what I want to do this weekend. I was like, can we play Brain Dead and not Adult? And then all this happened where I had to come to the shop. So much for that plan. Had to Adult anyway. You're supposed to be painting War Machine minis. Slacker. I'm supposed to be playing Brain Dead for the weekend, and here I am painting minis. Your excuse. I'm gonna go ahead and, I was trying to just dot the color in there, but I'm not happy with the opacity, so I'm just gonna paint it in as if all of that is, and then we'll do the non-metallic gold over the top. Smarter bet than trying to punch the color down in between those engraved bits. I love dark plum. He's gentastic, yes. It's so, it's, do you pronounce the degen? It's degentastic. Sir Lancerot. Some YouTube commander matches tonight. Oh, watch other people play. Gotcha. Part and I are drinking margaritas and assembling Sigmar minis. Now that one, that rate's pretty high. I don't like putting models together, but if I drank, sitting around and drinking margaritas with your partner and doing it is the way to do it. I feel like you guys have got a good plan. You paint while watching the stream, so there's no excuse. Exactly. See, Gentry, you got it. That's the way it's supposed to work. No excuses. No excuses. Get our wash again. But not overload it this time. If I can't get it just a little bit of color going there. Where's the other spot? On the back here, right? Oh yeah, right back there. Gotcha. Hiya. Getting your Space Marine color scheme test going. Hot pink and plaid. Just like Paint Liquor said. Going to make pasta with meatballs and garlic bread. Maybe some Diablo 4. Haven't played a ton recently. Is that game good? Have you been enjoying it? I need burgundy. Burgundy. I have not always been a big fan of Diablos. They get so super repetitive for me that I stop playing pretty quick. But I do have fun with them for a while. So for me, it's almost like, okay, well, I mean, yes, it's repetitive. Yes, it gets boring after a while. But, you know, in the time that it takes me to get bored with it, it's probably worth the value, right? I mean, it's like, it's a good value game. Same with War Machine. I play games like that, and you know, I get bored with them pretty quick when they become super grindy. You know, it's like, oh god, I gotta, like, right now I got all the parts. If you've known War Machine, I got all the parts for Prime that is vaulted, and I have been vaulted means that you can't get it anymore, right? You can't go find the parts and pieces for it anymore, but if you have them, you can build it. And I've had them all for a long time. Well, I didn't have them all, But then I found somebody willing to trade for another vaulted prime piece that I have that I don't have any other pieces for. So you have to do basically the body, the head, what else is it? It's the neuroptics, the torso, and the chassis. So torso, chassis, and head, basically, that you have to get the parts for the warframes. And in the prime ones are like the better versions of them. And so I had a particular headpiece the guy wanted, and I said, he's like, would you sell it to me? And I was like, well, I don't really want to sell it. Do you happen to have this other? And I don't remember what I was missing on it, but did the trade and got all the pieces. And now I'm having to grind because I don't have all of the things I need to make the headpiece. And man, that's when I remember I hate this game. The simple items you have to go grind for, and it just takes forever. Reminds me of the old days grinding for like dark iron for World of Warcraft to do molten core. You miss Vanilla WoW, go play it. I think they have servers. I, on the other hand, do not miss it and never want to level up another character in that game ever again, ever. Way too much time leveling characters up of every class to help my guild. Classes I didn't want to play because they needed them and I was good. So I'll be a good boy and level up and blah, 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 blah. I got so sick of that crap. Your Musu Black just showed up? What is that? What's that? City of Heroes server that's available for free. Oh, really? I never, unfortunately, I found City of Heroes very late. And so for me, I feel like it was already dead when I discovered how rad it was. So I was really bummed. I would have liked to have been able to play that game when people were actively playing it. I mean, I know you say you found a server, but I mean, it's a dead game for all intent and purpose. There have been a couple of MMOs that I found over the years that I'm like, oh wow, this is rad, only to find it and realize that, oh, nobody plays. And I think we've talked about it a lot on stream before that for me at least, the idea of MMOs is always better than the playing of MMOs. I love the concept. I love the idea of, Wednesday raid night. But in practice, I'm horrible at committing to it anymore. There used to be a time where I could spare the Wednesday night and really have fun and do all the wipes and, at the end of the night feel like I'd had a great time. Nowadays, I probably would be the person they'd kick out of the guild. I'm like, nope. Why are we putting up with these people being 15 minutes left or late? I have things to do. I could be petting my dog. used to run a rating guild, but kiddos went out over rating. Yeah, at some point in time, you have to. I mean, I remember I stopped treating WoW like it was super important when a girl I was dating came in one time. She and I had not been getting along very well, and she was over at the house, and it was raid night, and she knew it, and she put up with it, but she was not happy that we were kind of getting back on track after having been mad at each other for a while. And it was raid night, and I was like, I have to do this. I have a pivotal role. I run. I don't remember what I was doing at the time, if I was the healing lead or tank lead or whatever I was doing at the time. And I was like, I gotta do it. She's like, I get it, and we'll do dinner afterwards or whatever. And she got frustrated at something in the middle of the raid, and it wasn't like we were overtime or anything like that. And she came barging in saying, I really am not okay with this. We need to talk. And I was like, you don't understand how this works. Like, I get it. I'm sympathetic. What do you want to do? And she got all frustrated to the point to where I was like, well, I like these people better than you. So, and that was it. That's not what you say. And I had to take a long, hard look and say, you know what? That's not really cool. All these people on this video game, while they're cool, and I do enjoy hanging out with them, I probably got to get my real life stuff in order. She wanted a dinner date on raid night? It was like a Wednesday. I think we raided on Wednesdays. I don't remember. Raiding is what killed WoW for you? That was the whole thing that made it worth playing for me, but it made it like a job, and it got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, exactly. Total time sink. That is a well. They are if you treat it that way, right? I know a lot of people that still play WoW, and they can sit down for like an hour or two and go run some quests and do some fishing and farm some stuff and do their dailies, and then they don't play. And I'm like, okay. I was like, but for me, that's not what they are. For me, it's like, okay, we're doing this, and every day I'm doing this, and then I'm farming this, and we're getting ready for this raid, and we're gonna go get it. We're gonna be server first, and that's the way this works, and be here on time. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I had to be like, I put the brakes on and quit like a month later and never looked back. I've tried to play some others in the meantime, but every time I'm like, nah. Blackest black paint you can get as you're not Anish Kapoor. Nah. What are you going to use it for? Stuff's very gimmicky. You miss your cow, Shaman. Tauren were great. Tauren were great. That was all I played initially. Warrior, Druid. I never liked Shaman. I never liked Shaman. I don't like things where I gotta put out totems and, modules, and I don't know. I like punching people in the face. Like, what class punches people in the face? Which Shaman can do, but I was like, what can I do to just punch people in the face? Do you have that? I would like to punch people in the face. I think I might actually try white blue into burgundy as a tint. Am I crazy? Is this something that's going to work? I feel like it's going to work. I mean, it's just a brighter color. It's not a bad deal. It's going to be fine. If I have moisture on my brush, that is. Be all right. You were a night elf with a nice booty. Uh. Wad, we need to talk. You are not a night elf with a nice booty. You're like, I'm whatever I want to be. It's the internet. I was in Zambi's stream the other day. I had no idea that Zambi's married her husband from WoW. I didn't know that. That's awesome. I don't know that I ever thought in terms of an online game being a place to meet anybody. It was very rare. I mean, I might meet people out that were um, into the game I was playing, but I never met people that I played with, unless they were like real life friends anyway, you know, or, uh, well, I guess that's really it. I never really met anybody. I didn't go to events for the games I played. Did I? I don't think so. Arondoria, we do. This is one of the sculpts for our game Age of Angra. It is not a miniatures game. You buy the game, it's a card game. But we are making some miniatures based on the characters in the game. This one is Kamar Jin. We also have Devandra, a mystical mech type character. And the Denav, a demon. 75 millimeter. They're all basically like 80 to 90 millimeters tall, but they're 75 millimeter scale roughly. And they are meant to just be really cool minis for painting that you can have of your favorite Asura from the game. Pick up the game and get a favorite Asura. Game's available on our website right now. We did not kickstart it or crowdfund it at all. We just made it. You can buy it. Get it shipped next week. We'll be taking it to Gen Con, Gamma in the beginning of next year, so you'll see a lot more ramping up. Heck, our second game will be out before Gamma next year, I hope. Nope, the miniatures are not on the site yet. These are the first demo. I say demo. These are the first prints for approval. We're working with a third-party manufacturing house for the printing on these. They will be 3D printed sculpts. And we are looking to have them, I don't know, maybe within a month. Depends on what they come back and say their production schedule is looking like. But that would be my hope, is that within a month or so, you know, somewhere maybe mid to late August, that we would have them for sale. All three of the first ones. There are 9 characters or 9 of these creatures in the base game. And we're doing sculpts for 3 of them out of the gate, see how the public reacts, and then we also are working on the sculpts for the remaining 6 in the base game. And then there's tons more Asura in the hopper to be made. So depending on how the game continues to run, we will be doing more miniatures as well. Is the second game going to be the Monument Hobbies employee battle game? No. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. We are not that famous to have a game about the employees of the company yet. Not on our radar. I know you guys want it. All 20 of you in chat that would buy it does not afford us the production. No, the second game, I think, is going to be big. The nice, light party game. Angra is a fantastic battle game using cards, and each of the miniatures, our goal with them is to have them also come with a custom card that will allow you to have the miniature on the board when you play, so they can act as a avatar for you, but there's no tactical movement, or the miniature doesn't have any bearing on the game, but it would be cool to have your painted miniature out there. So that's going to happen. You're never going to get your chair guy cards. Price on the minis, so you can start saving now. I'm not sure. They're probably going to be in like maybe the $35 range, something like that is my target. I haven't done final pricing on what it's going to take us to package them, and final manufacturing costs and things like that. But I'm hoping in that kind of $35 range. Might hit 40, but I'm really, really trying to keep them under that kind of range. I will definitely be keeping you posted as we get closer. And no more. If it's 40, can you pay 60 just to make your ordering process a pain? That's not how the website works. Yeah, it's just like when we do the texture trainers, we do these at 25 bucks just to keep them affordable. Which is, they're not too dissimilar in the amount of resin considering that the texture trainers are pretty thick. But these with the multiple pieces and cleanup that we have to do will drive the cost up a little bit. So I know they won't be as inexpensive as the texture trainers because there's more detail to them, but somewhere in that range. We paid a lot more for the sculpts on them and things like that too. So, party game called Don't Eat the Paint. Yes. No. No. Oh, horrible. We have, as you can imagine, we have all sorts of crazy ideas for games. It's really just a matter of determining what we want to make real, what becomes reality. A lot of very brilliant ideas running around in the building. And of course, Ben, our game development partner, he is insane. He keeps coming up with crazy stuff all the time too. The second game that's in development right now, we're in, I don't know if we'd call it, we're in like pre-beta playtesting right now internally. We just had a really good playtest meeting on Friday over lunch. And we'll continue to do that once a week until we get to production. But right now, the big thing with that is art. We've got a character design artist taking all of our initial reference designs and creating the style, the visual style for the game. We're very excited about that. It has a very Dungeons and Dragons-esque character allotment. Fighter, cleric, rogue, and wizard are the initial 4 character classes that will be in the game. We have way more classes, but we're going to release it with 4. And so we're doing all the artwork right now. I say we are. She is doing all the artwork right now, and we have the fighter done, and then the next 3 character classes are being done. Hopefully, as we speak. And then we have to do about 72 other pieces of artwork for the dungeon stuff. So there's a lot of work to be. That's going to be the timeline for this game. Is when does all of the artwork get done? Because we don't have a full-time in-house artist. All of this is done with partners external to us, and so getting the amount of time we need to get things done quickly when doing over 100 pieces of artwork is the toughest part of game development right now. And it's very difficult to just hire the type of artist that we want on staff because a lot of them make a ton of money being freelance artists and don't want to work for us. So it's also a pain in the butt. So you happen to be a reputable artist who would love to come and work at Monument Hobbies as our chief character design and artwork guru, drop us a resume. You gotta be really good. I am a harsh critic. Fiverr artist, go. No. No, I am so afraid of Fiverr artists just, going into the world of AI. We've used AI for quick prototyping and for backgrounds on hand-drawn art and things like that to speed up the process. But nowadays it's getting scary with artists being like, oh yeah, that's all original. And it is not all original. We've heard horror stories, so we're trying to stay away from all that. If somebody tells me they can draw full character references painted and everything for $10, $15, I'm not interested. As good of a deal as that sounds like, I am not interested. I've got some very damning stories of companies that people know and love sending me artwork and layered artwork for me to work with when we're doing like collaborative projects and things like that. And I would open up the layered artwork and they would I don't say mistakenly, they would send me the layered artwork, the original layered artwork. And I would look through the layers, and the bottom layer is something that they traced over from a famous artist. And I'm like, wow, dude. I don't know that that's what you wanted to send me. I get that all art inspires other art, but come on. At some point in time, you got to be like, yeah, that's just straight up lifting. You stop Black Bladder as soon as AI is regulated. It's not going to be profitable when you have to pay royalties to the artists they have scraped. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Because it doesn't scare me as much as it would have years ago because I've lived through the digital, sampling revolution for music. And while that also was very bad and was very, it basically AI, it's not artificial intelligence, which a lot of AI is not truly artificial intelligence, it's just algorithms putting stuff together. That same conversation has been had a million times before. This is a little more nuanced because it can legit just like plagiarize and rip you off, but so could sampling. I don't know. Industries change, people have to change, art has to change and keep on its toes. It's done it before with digital art and Photoshop, and the the bulk of people don't work with pen and paper anymore. They work in digital with a Wacom tablet and all of that, and Photoshop can straighten your lines for you. So where does it start and stop? That argument is a tough one to follow through with all the way because I get very damning on certain things. I'm like, yeah, don't rob another artist's work. Don't let somebody say, you enter in like J. Scott Campbell Batman, and all of a sudden you get what? You get artwork out that looks like J. Scott Campbell drawing Batman, and then you put it in your own comic book. That seems bad to me. But by the same token, there are people out there who have developed their entire style based off copying J. Scott Campbell. And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like a hypocrite because I'm like, oh, I really like so and so, and somebody goes, oh, did you know that he copied his entire style from this person? And I don't, because I don't pay attention to that stuff. So I got to be careful. I don't want to be the hypocrite with the loudest damning voice and then be like, nope, you're wrong. But I also get it because we prefer to deal as artists ourselves with real life flesh and blood artists. We love the idea of the heart and soul of the art of anything, whether it's a game we do or our miniatures. I draw all of the initial concepts for all of our miniatures. I then pass it off to a professional character artist, and she refines the pose and makes it all make sense. And then we give it to a sculptor, let's say if we're making a model. And including those people in the process is huge for me because it makes life so much enriched, if that's a word, over not doing it that way. Because I feel like there's a heart and soul to everything that is done at every step. And we really like to have that artist enjoy the project. That's tougher and tougher to do sometimes, depending on what you're doing. Some people just want to get paid. But I really like the idea that you enjoy the project so that you've got a little bit of love in it. And there's really some, something awesome comes out of it. So we like to do collaboration that way. And it shows because you get a better product. AI is dangerous in that because it really just sits back on I'm going to make a buck and I'm going to be able to turn out a lot more stuff faster and make more bucks. And I don't condemn that thinking. I think if you are a artist utilizing it to do like what we've done, like I said, we've used it. I'd be a hypocrite to say we haven't. We've used it. for backgrounds. You know, if you draw a character and you want to put them in a background, you know, get AI to generate the rough background and then, you know, clean it up with your own art. I feel like that works. I feel like that's a useful tool, the same way sampling a particular kick drum from James Brown gives me a sound that would be very, very difficult to recreate. And some people are like, well, if you can't recreate it, you shouldn't be able to use it. And I went, okay, well, I did, though. I sampled it and I put it in my song. But I get why it would piss some people off. So, interesting conversation. I hope that it evolves in a meaningful way and we do get some security and some legislation that protects artist rights, gives them, you know, the royalty. Although it's a shame because, you know, you listen to Spotify, the CEO of Spotify was up in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee or something like that recently. And they were asking him why 90% of the artists on Spotify made roughly $12 a month. And of course, he had no answer. He was trying to say that everybody benefits from Spotify because we do all this licensing the way it's meant to be. But when you really look in, it's like they really only have to pay like, you know, half a cent for every play of your song. And so you start doing the math and real quick, it's like you better have billions of plays of your song if you plan to make any money. So they've, on the one hand, they've said royalties are great. We pay royalties. And then you dig in and you're like, oh. So yeah, Adobe will pay royalties. Everybody will be happy, when in reality, the royalties are $12 a month. And it's like, well, that's not doing it correctly. So big conversation. You develop your art style from tracing Rob Liefeld stuff. Well, hence the reason you're here. The worst artist to make it big in comics, I think, right? That what he's well known for? Did you see recently for the Deadpool and Wolverine movie coming out that they did a Liefeld meme? They took the Captain America stupid proportions cover that Liefeld did, and they did it with Deadpool and Wolverine. So they both have these ridiculously out of proportion torsos. I giggled. It was funny. You expect artists to get completely screwed over by AI? I don't know that the political climate has anything to do with it. It never has. I mean, like music, it wasn't like if one side won or the other side won. One of them's more. They both are controlled, or they all are controlled by people that want to make money. So, yeah, the incentive is to, you know, have those action committees and lobbyist groups say that, you know, oh, we'll do the right thing. We've created a, you know, the Harry Fox agency where everybody gets paid for their plays on radio. And then you dig in, like I said, and you find out that, yeah, they get paid. They get $12 for, you know, 100,000 plays. The AI doesn't have the skill in the same way the human artists who base their style copying someone else does. It's the effort and skill that the human did that makes it their style. Definitely, AI will be the move to mediocrity the same way music has been. But when you look at music, you now have a bigger pool of mediocrity in music that is more available and is what is regurgitated over and over again. And that's a shame, because music by and large sucks, you know, at the core of what we would call pop music. You know, whether that branches off into country or metal or rock or, you know, whatever, punk, you know, R&B, hip hop, all of it is mid. You know, all of it is just meh. It's all diluted garbage because of the reliance on digital products to make music, as opposed to artists actually, you know, pushing their craft. But on the fringes of that are artists that now push their craft and they become more recognizable because it's like, ooh, why does that sound so different? Well, it's because there's love and passion and human, you know, energy put into it, as opposed to these other things. It doesn't mean that digital music can't have love and passion and you know, human heart put into it. It can. It's just a medium, so it can turn into whatever you want it to be. You know, but it still needs that guidance, or it's mediocre. You know, it's really driving towards mediocrity is what AI is doing with everything it's doing, whether it's music or art or whatever, because the more that people use AI artwork as ads and things like that, the more it will just be a sea of mediocrity. But what it will do is it will allow the people that really invest in their craft to stand out, which I think is a good thing too. And it's always been that way. I thought it was funny that a big group of the people that are being listened to the most in the AI discussion are the stock photo people, and the stock photo people are the people that are churning out tremendous amount of mediocrity footage and photos and all of that, just putting a million things out there so that I can go and buy that stock footage, which we do. We'll go buy stock footage and use it in a commercial. It costs $13. It's like it's a whole baseline of mediocrity, but you can use it and turn it in as a tool. It's like going and buying a particular kind of wood and going and buying pine, which is kind of mediocre wood that everybody uses, and it's like but you can take it and make something brilliant out of it if you spend the time. And it's those photo people that are causing the biggest wave in the AI art right now, because I guess Adobe is, they're worried about the Adobe stock photo stuff, training its AI off of all their hard work. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but it's not like, it's weird to me, because it's not like stock photo is really enriching society in any way. It's built for corporate America to turn out mediocre product. Is what stock photo is, because it means that when you shoot a commercial, you don't have to travel to the Grand Canyon and do some really cool shot. You can just go get stock photo of the Grand Canyon, and you can see that same Grand Canyon shot in 50 different movies, because Hollywood does the same thing. And so it's an interesting conversation, right? Because you can trace it back to, you've been doing this all along. Now that it's a computer that's providing the stock footage, then it's basing it off of these other photos. It's interesting. It's an interesting conversation. No, that Captain image was not based on the exact pose and proportions of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was not. Definitely was not. No human has ever looked like that ever in the history of ever. Stop defending Liefeld. He's just a bad artist. You should watch Four Chords by Axis of Awesome. 100% points out how bland and horrid pop music is as a generality. Oh, I've seen a guy that literally went through just recently and got called out on the internet because I'm not going to know this person because I'm a bad pop culture person. Doja Cat, maybe it wasn't Doja Cat. It was somebody like that. It was a pop artist who's really huge right now. And he said that they haven't made a unique song ever. And he went back through all of the catalog of this person's songs and showed how everyone was a rip. Not necessarily sampled, but like a replay. Like we have made a derivative of Jefferson Starship, of, this other song. And he would literally play it. And then on the other hand, be like, and listen to this from 1968. And they were like, other than the words being different, they were like the same song. And it just kept going and going and going. He did it for like one or two songs, and like the internet backlashed at him, like, you don't know, this person's more of an artist than you've ever known, and blah, 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 blah. And then he went and blew her up. He was like, here's all 28 of these songs. And it was interesting to watch again. I'm like, he's not wrong. Where's the creativity? So Dua Lipa, that's it. What it was, Dua Lipa. Yeah, it was Dua Lipa, which I don't know. I didn't recognize a single one of those songs. But, her fan base got really bent out of shape about it. But he very well put into perspective the fact that, it's not lies. The melody is identical, other than they might put a sample beat over the top of an old melody. But that's like, when Jen and I joke around all the time because Robbie Van Winkle, right, Vanilla Ice, when he was like, he took the David Bowie song, right, and he goes, oh, it's not at all alike. Theirs goes dun 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 dun, and mine goes dun 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 dun. It had like one note where they hit the key one extra time on the sample, and he's like, mine's totally different. It's like, come on, dude. There's a lady on TikTok that does that with songs. She goes back generations to see how many times the original was sampled. Mike, yeah. Well, yeah, the 3 and 4 chord progression is something that is really just a fundamental, right? And so you can do your pick your chord base and your foundation, and then you can play it, and you're going to find repetition in music because you just can't. In a standard 4/4 pleasing, environment, you're going to find repetition all the time. How you string those together, and then how you layer the music on top of them, and then what you write as far as lyrics is what makes music, arrangement is where the heart of music is. Because you'll find that going back through time immemorium. Even classical music suffers from that too, right? The same progressions in melody would happen from, generation to generation in classical music, but that didn't make it any less important for that new, even, I won't say derivative because it wasn't like as bad as it is today, where you could play one and then play the other and not be able to distinguish them apart until the lyrics kicked in. That's pretty bad. This is why you don't get music. Are you not a big music lover? Music is just a window to the soul, right? It's a way to open and move yourself along. It works for some people, and some people don't care about it at all. It's fine. Biggest problem I think with developing true AI is that our math on hardware is logical loops. It doesn't have a concept of imagination and metaphor for start, so it might be hardware that needs to be different. They need to think about. Yeah, I'm one of those that is not a fan of AI, but I also have a big separation of what AI is capable of doing. I think that the danger in it is that it is just very two dimensional. It thinks in a very linear pattern. It can't think outside of that. I mean, we talk about it here in Arizona because we have these big AI car companies, Waymo being the biggest. And yesterday I saw Waymo just nearly total out a whole line of traffic because we were sitting at a stoplight. Waymo was right in front of me, and all of a sudden its right blinker turns on. It's two or three cars deep from the red light, and then I'm behind it, and there's a stack of traffic at 5 p.m. rush hour next to us. The light's red, we're all dead stop. It's dead stop, and its right blinker comes on at a dead stop. And as soon as the car in front of it starts to move, it pulls into the lane next to it. It had enough of a gap between the two cars next to it that it couldn't pick up anything there, but traffic was going from zero to starting to move, and it literally, I mean, and what the person next to me honked at it, and I looked over at them, and they just started shaking their heads because there's nobody in the car. There was a passenger in the back and nobody else in the car. No driver. What are you gonna do? There was a cop pulled one over the other day, and when it got pulled over, it knows to get, when it sees the lights, I guess it knew to pull over. The cop got out, and it had to call people at some remote location. It got pulled over because it ran a stoplight, or it failed to stop for a temporary stop sign that had been set up for road construction or something like that. So it didn't know, and it broke the law, right? It did some citation, and so it's like, what are you going to do to it? You can't ticket the AI. So I think all of this is so delirious. It's so stupid. When I want to listen to copy music, you listen to Weird Al Yankovic. Didn't he have I saw something that said he had a new song coming out. I thought that guy was dead. Weird Al's fought that fight before for derivative works and parodies and things like that, because I think he's always tried to ask people for their permission to do the parody. And I don't know if I have this right, but it feels like there were a couple that said no, and he did them anyway, and it wound up, him having to defend himself. But I could be wrong on that. I never understood the Weird Al thing growing up as a kid playing music in bands. I was like, how does this guy how is he getting this attention? We're over here playing good music and making stuff on our own, and this dude's a hack and has videos on MTV and making millions of dollars. I didn't understand it at all. It pissed me off, right? That was our anger at the system. It's like, how is this a thing? Oh no, I know parody is protected as free speech. I'm just like, why do people buy it? Right? It was disheartening as a musician to know that was what people were choosing to spend their money on all over our record. No, I get it. You can say, well, we didn't choose to play the right music. And you're right. It was a bad business decision for us to play original music in the punk rock genre when it was just not what was selling. You know, 100% on us. But it still felt bad, right? It still was like how is this the way the world is? Like, we're out here trying to make good music. And obviously in a very limited genre that wasn't making any money at the time anyway. Coolio was unhappy about Amish Paradise. Was that the one? But Al had asked his management. They said it was okay without checking with Cool. Okay, so I knew it was something where the artist got kind of bummed out, but I didn't realize what the situation was. Reading something not too long ago. If it's true, it was hilarious. It was that Sting gets paid some ridiculous amount of money for every breath you take because he got robbed by Puff Daddy when he did that song. And the agreement was some ridiculous amount of money. It's like thousands of dollars a month for in perpetuity that has to be paid. Sting gets paid more than we make in our livelihoods every year from one song that somebody robbed from him unlicensed, which I think is great. I mean, more power to him. Don't steal, but it's still funny. Ghost Hunter, can you buy the album now? No. Nope. I mean, maybe. I mean, you might find like crazy copies of tapes and stuff on eBay. Jen finds stuff. I know that I talked to the guitarist from one of the bands I was in, and they had run across the masters and were wanting to remaster to modern mix specifications and abilities one of the albums that we had done, but it was not an album that was ever sold. We didn't wind up getting a deal, and later on, I mean, we're talking about in the time where you really couldn't do more than produce a tape and sell it out of the back of your car. There wasn't make your own CD back then. Still much later. Produced a bunch of hip hop music along the way, and one of the groups that I worked with down in Austin, Texas, tagged me on Facebook not too long ago, and they had found a bunch of old show posters and master cassette for some of the tracks I had done during that time. That was fun. I need to find a DAT player that works and blow Jen's mind, because I've got, when we were looking in storage, I have all these DAT tapes that are the DAT masters for a lot of tracks I did for a lot of different people when I was producing. And some of those are really fun songs. I did the B-side, a B-side remix for Cream for Wu-Tang Clan for a DJ album. Back then there was so many different remixes that were done for big, well, they weren't big songs at the time, but that was a lot of fun. I have the master for that someplace. But I don't have a DAT player. I wonder if there's like a machine. Does anybody know? Anybody involved in music? Anybody have a machine that they know that is like like they used to have like the tape deck that could be recorded straight to CD? Anybody have like a digital audio tape player set up like that? I have that in mini disc, believe it or not. Mini disc was a really good musical format for mastering that we used for a long time in the studio. How many times has Cashmere or the drum from When the Levee Breaks by Zeppelin been said? Tons. Tons. Impeach the president? Tons and tons. I still have a big chunk. Well, not a big chunk, but I have a sizable chunk of my sampled records. We used to go digging in the crates. We'd go to record conventions and stuff, and you'd find like old Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass records. It had, the boom, cats, cats. Open drums were like a producer's love, if you could find them. I had a buddy who, that's what he basically studied his entire life, not like formally, but he was like just that guy that knew every open drum sample on every old Southern rock record or, pop record or whatever, jazz, with these amazing drum breaks on them that everybody was, basing their stuff off of. So we would go out and get records for like $20 that had beats on them that you could make a song with and make like, $3,000 on the song. I sold a bunch of music to the World Wrestling Federation because they were in Connecticut when I was living in New York. And I had a contact with their head of music and sound production. So they would enlist guys like me to produce music for up-and-coming wrestlers that needed like intro music, but they weren't, at the level that they could afford their own song. So I would turn out CDs with like 10 or 12 tracks on them to them that were just loops, right? They just had enough on there, the meat, so that they could create a song or loop it enough. And so I would do, X amount of measures in a loop for each track. They weren't completed songs, no vocals, all recorded in my home studio. And I would sell those to them, and they would pay me a ridiculous amount of money for each track they used. Like, I forget what it was, $2,500, $2,000. So sometimes you'd give them a CD and then you get like $25,000 back because they kept like 12 songs. It's crazy. And I never watched wrestling. So I never got to see if any of my songs got played with some big hairy dude running down the runway. But they're based right out of Connecticut as you go over the border from New York. I don't know if they are anymore. But I went out to their big building once in Connecticut. Fun. Oh, the setup they had, even back then. And I'm pretty sure they were still the WWF back then, not the WWE. I don't think the World Wildlife Federation had sued them for their trademark yet. You should look up how to make banana bread. Boots, cats, baton, banana bread. Yes. If there's one side I wish I never got used again, it's the Wilhelm scream. I'm getting hungry. What time is it? 6? Holy, about time to stop. I need food. Computer and software and 80 interfaces made recording at home. No need for 24 track at Warner Brothers. I still had a 24 track in my home studio. When I say home studio, my first business was building recording studios. So my home studio was pretty damn good. But yeah, I had an Atari 24 track, Otari, not Atari. I had an Otari 24 track, 2-inch tape, full bay interface, 56 channel Neve console. So it was no joke. So when I say I was recording at home, I was legit recording at home. Well, I say legit. Not as legit as like a Studio A room, because I, of course, was still at that time, I was in a 5th floor walk-up in Brooklyn. So, my acoustics weren't great. But I could handle most of that with digital at that point in time, right? It was just getting to a point where you could start to effect out a lot of your problems. Still, you had to, do a suitable microphone setup if I was doing vocals. But for stuff like the WWF stuff, I didn't have to do anything, right? Because there's no vocals. And I played my guitar straight into a digital interface. I don't remember what my digital interface for my guitar was called. It was red. It was a 2U unit in my rack, and it was red. And it gave like all the old Fender amp sounds and all that. But you just plug in direct to it and play into headphones. And it would sound better than any of my amps would sound. Like any amp I've ever owned, it would sound better than that. I was blown away. I bought that thing. Changed my life back when I was playing guitar. It's like, like a Studer. It was a what the hell was that thing called? ADAT machines. I never had ADAT at my home studio. I went from tape when I sold my 24 track. I went down to a half-inch 8-track Pro Tascam machine. I always liked running to tape for the initial mix. Um, and then when I went to digital, it was all done in Pro Tools and on the hard drive. And believe it or not, I never recorded multi-channel on tape, on ADAT tape. I did in studios, but I could never afford one. And so I was recording to hard drives, and then eventually through Pro Tools, and then eventually onto mini disc. I think was the first thing I used, and then I did ADAT first, or not ADAT, digital DAT, just digital audio tape 2-track for mastering, and then I went to mini disc. A lot of the studios were trying to do mini disc at the time. Was mini disc Sony? Does anybody remember? I don't remember. They were like floppy disks. They were brought back like the floppy disk style, except they were bulkier. Studebaker, which made you think of Model T. Now I've got a mental picture of Jason starting his car with a crank switch when he was young. No. Nope. Never had a car they had to crank over. I did have a Model A pickup, 1929 Model A pickup, though, that I lowered and put an I-beam front end on and channeled the thing about 4 inches. It was super low. Totally unsafe. Death machine. Traded it to a pair of dudes from, I want to say they were traveling into, it was when I was in California, and I want to say those guys came from Oklahoma or something like that, maybe Missouri. And they were buying 2 things. They were buying a motorcycle and my car in California, and they trailered a 1957 Chevy Apache pickup out, and dropped it off, and then loaded up the Model A rod that I had built, and we basically traded straight across. I traded for this Apache pickup with extra windshields and fenders and wood for the bed and all that stuff as a project, and gave them the Model A, and they gave me a couple $1,000. And the next day I get a phone call screaming at me because they had wrecked the Model A. They had taken it out and driven it. It had a whole shot transmission on it. I don't know if you guys know about cars, but it had like you would clutch out into first, and it would give you a little bit of time before the clutch grabbed so that you could shift before the light turned green on the drag strip, right? So as the tree was going, it would go yellow, and you'd switch into gear and then be able to grab the wheel and hit the accelerator, because it was definitely not a safe race car. But that whole shot tranny was in there, and they acted like they'd never known what it was, and they wrecked that car. They drove it up over a berm in somebody's front lawn and hit a big rock somewhere out in California in a neighborhood they were staying at, and wanted to come back and get their truck, and I was like, hell no, man. The fact that you can't drive doesn't mean that I have to take my car back. I didn't feel the least bit bad for those guys. Oh, the good old days, man. Live fast, die young. I missed the die young part, so. And I'm living pretty slow nowadays. I paint miniatures. I paint little people on stream with you guys, so my life is slowed down considerably. I like this better, if we just got to be honest about it. If it's a dumb proprietary media format, chances are good it's Sony. They were Betamax. Sony was mini. I believe Sony was mini disc, yeah. You still have a Sony mini disc player that works, Okren? That's awesome. I may need to keep you in touch and send you some mini disc masters. You can make copies of them if you make me like something playable. Record them to hard drives so that I can have the files, the MP3 files or MP4 files, so that I can play them back. That would be awesome. I have this whole long case of DAT tapes that are of masters, studio masters of things I've done in my past. I have no way to play them. If I was like, I don't think I still have a DAT machine anywhere in my storage. I know I have an old dual well cassette deck someplace, but I don't think I have a DAT machine. I know I don't have a mini disc player. I know I sold that. Blu-ray was Blu-ray Sony, yeah, but CD was well, no, VHS was Panasonic, right? And Laserdisc was Pioneer. Too old to rock, too young to die. They also have 90,000 different memory stick formats for cameras. I know. I know. I had my first digital camera was a Nikon D2000. I want to say not my first digital, but my first professional like digital SLR, right? And it had the only thing it took was a weird hard drive thing, like a portable hard drive thing it was just a square with a bunch of pins on one end. It looked like a Nintendo cartridge they had to shove into it. And holy cow, I think they were the only people that ever used that. So I have a tremendous amount of awesome photos from my days back touring with bands and taking photos. And I have the same thing. I have them all on there, but the hard drive that I would transfer to for photo editing back in the day has long since bit the dust. And I still have the hard copies of these things that you put in the camera, but I can't use the camera. It has its own memory, so I can still take shots with it, but I can't use those discs anymore. I wonder if they'll still exist. I've never checked. Jen bought like a Canon, so I've never had to worry about it. I need some kind of DAT machine, Mike, not an ADAT machine. Don't buy me a DAT machine, dude. They can't be cheap anymore. Blu-ray with Sony and Philips. Philips, yeah, Philips, I think, right? Philips was CD, I think, right? Mashusta is a bunch of those brands anyway. So I think it was Mashusta was. I know they did, like, Laserdisc was awesome. I used to love watching my Laserdiscs. I had like the whole Godfather trilogy in chronological order on Laserdisc. I had the original Star Wars Laserdiscs that were so cool. Apocalypse Now, man, I love those. Yeah, problem getting data from older media types. Yeah, I had a big issue with I owned a record label and I was distributed through Universal Island and they screwed me so bad on our first record that shipped over, well, I think we shipped 8,500 copies back in the day when you were in a catalog and the record buyer at the actual record store got the catalog update every month or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and they would place their order. And so if you shipped 8,500 copies, you technically had a hit. Like that was good shipping. Like the record company started paying attention to you. And we finally had a record that shipped 8,500 copies. It was by a band out of Dallas called Hydroponic Sound System. And we put that record out. It shipped 8,500 copies, and Universal started ghosting our phone calls, right? And wouldn't return our phone calls. And when we finally got the attorney to ask them where our check was for this months later, they presented us with a statement on account of all of these blockbuster music stores in markets we would never have advertised in, that they spent all this money getting our record onto the listening stations at. And it cost a lot of money to get a record on a listening station at Blockbuster and Tower Records and all that. And they had this sheet that somehow they had spent exactly what our royalty would have been back on the sales of the record. Like to the penny. I think they owed us like 25 cents. And of course they never wrote, I don't know. I don't even think they ever wrote us a check for 25 cents. So of course the band, which was friends of mine that I put their record out, totally hated me. Probably still hates me to this day. I've never talked to them again. And because they didn't get any money. I mean, they did because I gave them a signing bonus when they signed to my record label. But it was only a couple $1,000s. And then they sold 8,500 copies of their record and didn't get a cent from it. Neither did I, but they thought I was cheating them. It was such a bummer. So I literally shut my studio down and stopped even thinking about ever working in music again. I was so furious after that whole thing. And the record kept on selling, and we just got screwed out of everything. And I just said I was never going to think about the music industry again. But the problem with that is that now I have all these media formats that I can't do because I just stopped paying attention. It's a bummer. I need to... The DAT machines you're seeing are less than Smog's like $650, dude. Don't spend money on a DAT machine, Mike. Definitely do not spend money on a DAT machine. I can buy a DAT machine if it becomes that important for me. But yeah, data from older media types is a pain in the butt. I've gotten so used to just hard drives being so rad, right? I might have to go get one. I wonder if there's musical rental places here in Phoenix. I wonder if I can go rent a DAT machine from one of them. Like I could probably go spend $100 or $50 and rent a DAT machine for a day, and in a day I could cut all that stuff to a. I could buy an audio interface for the computer. I don't even need one, right? I have mixing boards all over the studio here, so we just run it into a mixing board here at the studio and just record it into a Soundwave or something on the computer. Now you got me thinking. I need to do that because I don't think Jen's heard any of like all of that music because none of it ever was something that you would find if you didn't have like the 12 inches and stuff like that. All right, Jen's and Germs, I'm done. It's like 6. We've been at this for 3 hours. Have Chris do it. He would love it. He would love. I could just have Jen do it. I could literally just set it up and say, "Here, do this," because she would have so much fun listening to all of it that it wouldn't even be like work. Yeah, I need food. I haven't eaten all day. Well, I did. I made eggs this morning, but I haven't done anything. So anyway, we got some work done. You can hopefully see where we're going with her, right? This is the art that we're starting from. I've started laying down the orange on the gold, and I'll continue to do that. And then I'm not going to do the puppers and the lamp in this glowing yellow. I'll do them in just gold lamp, and then the puppers will be like maybe a white gray like Toto or something like that. And then, yeah, so I'm taking a little bit of freedom of license, artist license to do this stuff. But I'm really happy with the way the skin is based out now. I'll do a little bit of purple shadow on it, and then we'll highlight it up to like a white blue. And then I got to figure out how I'm going to do, because it's just, again, it's this glowing, moonlight crest on her head that I got to figure it out. I don't want to just paint it white. So I got to figure something out with that. And then we'll continue to work on the smoke. I'm at the point where now everything's dry from that heavy wash we put on there. And I'll go back in with white and brighten up the most deep recesses, and then we'll glaze it again. We'll keep working that back up to where the smoke works. But I'm really happy with all the colors coming together. She will be very cool. Thank you guys for spending Saturday with me. This has brightened my spirits. I was in a bad mood that I was even having to be here today. So thank you. I always love these. These are a lot of fun for me because they are just kind of out of the normal scheme of the stream and business. I don't have to work all day before I get here, so this is great. I appreciate you guys spending your Saturday with me. I have a lot of fun. Stick around. Try to find somebody to rate. Let's take a look and see who's on. I don't ever know which one of these buttons they hit. I think it's this one. They've changed up the browser so much in the studio. I don't know what the right link is. They all just say Twitch. We got Warhammer. We're definitely not rating those people. We got Unexpected Painting. And Games Day Prep with some thick paint. I don't know who this is. Luna Bacon. Never heard of Luna. Have I? I think we rated Luna Bacon before because she's in the following. So let's do that. Everybody else is playing video games. I don't see anybody else painting. Right? Right? Yeah, let's do that. Let's raid Luna Bacon. All right, Luna Bacon is cool, says Wad. Let's raid Luna Bacon. So we're going to do that. So chat, have a wonderful rest of your weekend. We will catch you back here on Monday. I'm not going to put the links in. We're not being that formal today. We're being casual, having a good time. Go shove some love into Luna Bacon's chat and hit some follow buttons once you get there. If you're new here, hit that follow button too. We do stream normally 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. These are exceptional out of the norm streams that we do on Saturdays every now and then, so I appreciate you hanging out with me. But go show some love in Luna Bacon's stream when we raid, and we will catch you back here on Monday. Adios, gang. I'm out.